Hello, I'm Nicole Beresford, the Liaison Officer at Catholic School Parents WA. Thank you for tuning into this induction session, whether it's on your own or with your fellow P&F members. So I'm just going to go through the slides that we used at our in-person induction and try to address all of the questions that were brought up over those 3 sessions as well. There'll be some documents that I refer to that I will email through when we email the link to this. And also, if you have any other questions, please email us and we will get back to you with a response. Okay, so we're going to start with an acknowledgement of country. So as Indigenous and non-Indigenous people together, let us have a sense of the importance of the land upon which we are standing, where spirituality, learning and ceremony have taken place over many millennia. Let us sense the earth beneath our feet and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Noongar people, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. For they have passed on to us a respect for the gift of humanity. May we continue our journey together, united by our commitment to walk with the spirit of our ancestors, dedicated to an attitude of understanding and reconciliation. Let us recognise the fundamental role that all families play in our children's education as their first and continuing educators. We value the role of families in supporting and engaging their children's learning in the home, school and community. Working together, we can ensure that every child fulfils their potential for the betterment of all. For we are one land, one spirit, one Australia. Okay, we also did a prayer together, so I'll give you a couple of moments to read through that one. Okay, I'll move to the next slide. So just a bit of an overview of the types of supports and services that we provide as Catholic School Parents WA. So the first one is around advocacy. So mostly that's to do with funding, making sure that Catholic schools in WA still are able to continue to obtain state and federal funding from the government. Also, we focus this year leading up to both elections with a push for some more capital funding for our schools. WA is the only state that doesn't get any capital funding from the state government to be able to build schools or improve and fix up or renovate any of the schools that we do have. So they give us loans which have to be paid back, but obviously we're just wanting a bit of an injection of funds to be on par with the other states. That would just mean that school fees will be able to be kept low rather than building levies and things like that having to go up. So we've definitely been pushing in that space and just making sure that the funding that we do get, that we're very grateful, continues on and doesn't decline in any way. And again, making it unaffordable for us as parents. The next part we work in is representation. So that's us gaining the voice of the parents in Catholic education and being able to provide that through in the conversations that matter. So whether that be at a state level or at a federal level. So it's also through working parties and things with CSPWA as well. So whenever they're looking at developing a new policy, or terms of reference is a good example, they would contact us at the beginning and say, look, we really want to hear the parent perspective as we're working on this, and just things that we need to consider when we're putting this policy or procedure together. So we're really grateful to be able to be included in those conversations as well. At a state level, we are able to provide feedback for through submissions and things as well. So post-school option pathways was a recent one where the government was looking at some possible changes to that and wanted feedback from parents. So we were able to gain some feedback through our members and then provide that on. And also through the federal government, we are affiliated with Catholic School Parents Australia, which has all of the states in Australia affiliated with them. So we're able to provide your voices and your concerns and your feedback through our organisation to the national organisation that then sits on lots of different working parties with federal government. And that's where we get the most amount of our funding from. So we really need to have a strong voice in that area as well. The third area is support. So that's about us in the office forming strong relationships with parents, P&Fs, advisory councils, leadership team, and CSPWA as well, just to make sure that you guys have all the information that you need to be able to be parent leaders within your school. Really promoting parent engagement in learning in the environment, school environment as well, and ways that we can look at supporting parents to be able to do that. And then we have all of the practical resources and things that you guys need as a P&F to be able to run smoothly. So whether that's around the governance or how to run meetings, templates for agendas, support with handing over to new office bearers, support to recruit new office bearers, and recruit volunteers in general. So I'll talk about that a little bit throughout the presentation as well. We just wanted to let you know about a community grant that we're going to be rolling out this year, hopefully maybe around maybe term 3. So we wanted to give some of the money that we get through our affiliations back to our schools in the form of a grant. And we wanted it to be, the criteria to be around a parent engagement activity within your school. So we're just working through the criteria at the moment. And we've got some examples of different projects that have worked well in other states and within WA as well. So once we have the information on those, we'll be able to give some examples as well to help you out if it's something that you would be interested in as a school to apply. So moving into the role of the P&F. So this, I think, is a really nice quote that's taken from the P&F terms of reference. And I just like it because I think it covers everything that we do in a really nice, succinct kind of way. So becoming a community, building support, building relationships within the school, and also supporting the staff, supporting the teachers, and adding to what the school's already able to provide as well. So I, really, really like that quote. I guess in terms of some other things that the P&F provides as well that aren't listed in the terms of reference are these things listed here. So I'll give you a chance to have a look. In terms of the parent engagement in learning, because I've already mentioned that, if you're finding it difficult to get people to your P&F meeting, or if you're feeling like you're just kind of going through the same thing and, they're going through quite quickly, an idea might be through the consultation with your principal and their permission, asking if any of the teachers from your school might be able to come to a P&F meeting to present on the different areas that they're working in. So if you've got a key literacy teacher or a key numeracy teacher, they might want to come along and just give a half an hour presentation about the different methods or programs that they're using within the school, and that's a good opportunity for parents to come along and hear about that, and then maybe be offered some suggestions of how they can support that learning at home as well. If you have a class representative system, and I will explain what that is a bit later on. Most schools do know what that is. So, but if you have class reps within your school, that can be a good way of supporting families in need. So if you hear about a family that's doing it a bit tough, or there's been a loss within the family or a job loss or something like that, through the class representatives, you might be able to organise a bit of a roster within your class or year group for supporting that family, whether it's with some meals or transport to and from school. So that's a really nice way that the P&F can be involved and supporting within the school environment as well. And I'll talk about the last one, just adding to the school resources as well. So quite often there'll be projects or ideas within the school community that don't fit within the school budget. So that's where the P&F might want to run a fundraiser, or may have some funds there through a levy that they might want to contribute towards that project. Some examples of why people might like to volunteer. And we sort of have this one in here as well, just to recognise you guys for all the work that you're doing, but also a way that you could educate the school community about why it's good to volunteer and why it might be nice to join your P&F community. So things that are, quite obvious, like modelling positive behaviour for your children. So they see you volunteering, having fun within the school community, having a good relationship with your teachers and the principal, and that just makes them feel a lot more comfortable about being in the school environment as well. Gaining new skills and confidence. So, treasurers, if you don't have a finance background, you'll learn a lot in that treasurer role. You'll learn a lot about marketing. You'll learn a lot about fundraising and community engagement. So, lots of different things that can be learnt, and then also sounds great on your resume as well. And just, I guess, the last one as well, like supporting school functions as well. So it could be that you're helping in the canteen, helping in reading in the classroom, or helping at sausage sizzles on athletics days, or just things like that that are going to support the school to be able to run these really fun events and bring families in and form those networks as well. Okay, so attracting volunteers. So we get a lot of calls in the office, particularly around ACM time as well, if people are stepping down from their positions and aren't sure how to attract new members. So some of the things we have seen work really well in quite a few schools is a bit of a P&F handbook, or even just a school handbook that's put together that goes through the roles of the P&F, the events that you would typically run during the year and how parents can be involved in those. So whether it's a volunteering at the events, whether it's a subcommittee to just organise things, whether it's monetary donations if they don't have the time to be able to, or if they have a business in the community and wanted to donate something that could be a prize, that can help raise money because the P&F's not having to outlay any money to actually be able to buy the prizes and things. So that can just help with profits. We do come across a lot of schools now where people are job sharing the positions, and that's completely fine. Although it's not stated in the terms of reference, we definitely don't see a problem with that. And that just means that you can share the load, or some people that feel that they've got the maybe the admin skills, but not the confidence to be running a meeting, that could work with the chair. Someone sort of works behind the background doing all the admin type stuff and the emails and things like that. And then someone else is there to actually run the meetings whenever they occur. And I guess the last one I just wanted to touch on as well, like if possible, if you can alternate the meetings between day and night, if you've got to a term, or even offering online options. So I'll talk a bit later about how you can access a CSPWA approved P&F email address, and that can help you then create a P&F Teams channel. So if people are wanting to tune in online, you can offer that Teams option so that there can be people in the school meeting, and then the ones that can't leave home for whatever reason can still participate as well. If you're finding it hard to get volunteers in at all, it doesn't need to be about just recruiting for office bearers straight away. It could just be having some simple morning teas at the school just to welcome parents, if getting them on school grounds, helping them to feel comfortable being in the school environment, because it could be based on their experiences at school that they don't feel that that's a role for them to be in the school. Just things like that, welcoming events, or if you're having assemblies, could you get a coffee van, or could you provide tea and coffee and biscuits, just so parents want to stay and will chat to each other. And I think just building that confidence on the school grounds and just meeting new people makes it a little less daunting to take the next step to come to a P&F meeting, and then the next step after that to possibly step up to a office bearer position. Okay, so the committee role. So these, the top 4 are listed in the P&F terms of reference, and there's quite a good description in the terms of reference guidelines as well. And we've got little one-page summaries of these positions that we can email to you if you wanted to put them into your school newsletter if you're advertising for the positions. The chair position obviously is a person that chairs the meeting and is able to make sure that the meeting flows well. I guess most people will come to the chair from the school community if they feel comfortable to, or they could come to any of the office bearers or any of their class reps as well. But I guess it's the chair's role to understand the workings of the P&F and to be able to answer any of those questions that might come from the school community. If you're a new chair, or if you feel that meetings are kind of sometimes hijacked with business that isn't P&F, or that other business at the end of the meetings, what we suggest is possibly, if you can, meeting with the school principal maybe a week before the meeting and just going through the draft agenda, and that gives you a chance to talk to the principal about what's going to be discussed. Make sure if you're in agreement, not in agreement, just so you know those things beforehand. And also it gives the principal or someone from the leadership team to have the opportunity to say, oh, that's not really P&F business, but I understand that people are concerned about that. I'm happy to talk to it in the meeting, but we won't spend too much time on it. So it just kind of helps the meetings flow a little bit better and make sure you're on the right track if that's something, if you're new and aren't sure about that. The deputy chair role simply says in the terms of reference that it's the person will step in if the chair isn't available, but we think it's a good opportunity to assign some other roles to that position to kind of share the load amongst the committee as well. So the deputy chair might be someone that could be in charge of correspondence, so they could be supporting the secretary with checking their emails and things like that and directing them to the right people, or they could be someone that collates information at the end of a P&F meeting, possibly to go in the school newsletter or to go out to class reps if there's something that you're wanting to go out to the school community via that. If there's a correspondence box or pigeonhole or letterbox or something at the school, maybe they could be in charge of checking that and making sure everything's available for the meeting. So lots of different things that you might be able to do as a committee. You can decide some additional duties for the deputy chair if that suits your local context. So the secretary role is getting the agenda ready. I'm not sure. I think it does say somewhere in the terms of reference, ideally have it out about a week before, just so that gives people a chance to read the previous minutes, action anything that was assigned to them, and just prepare for any reports or quotes or anything that they may need for the meeting. And then obviously getting the minutes out, as soon as possible that's practical for that person, just so that, everyone can have the meeting fresh in their mind, approve those minutes, and then move forward, getting ready for the next meeting. We do get questions about, is it okay to record meetings to help the secretary be able to reflect back and take those minutes? And I think that's fine. There's nothing against it, but just make sure that before you do that in a meeting, you do ask everyone for their permission. And obviously, if someone says no, then you're not able to record that. The process we think would be just letting people know that it's purely just for to support the secretary to take accurate minutes. And as soon as those minutes have been distributed and people are happy with them, then that recording will be deleted. It won't be kept. The treasurer position I will be talking about quite at length in the next couple of slides, so I'll gloss over that one just quickly for now. These last three positions aren't listed in the terms of reference, but we still feel that they're important positions, and they can be committee positions. So terms of reference says you can have 4 to 6 executive roles or committee member roles, depending on your local context. And some schools employ these roles just purely so that they can have more people at the meeting and meet a quorum a little bit easier if people aren't able to make it. So the P&F rep to the School Advisory Council is someone that sits on both the P&F and School Advisory Council, attends both meetings, and is sort of the conduit of information between those two. So go to the P&F meetings, talk about any School Advisory Council information that's come up at that meeting that is not confidential. So you have to bear that in mind as well. And then goes to the Advisory Council meeting and just gives them a bit of an update about what the P&F's doing, working on, any projects that they could support and things like that. The next one is the class representative system. So for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's where a parent or a couple of parents within either each year group or each class, depending on how many classes you have, nominates to be the representative for that class. And they're the go-between between the P&F and the parents. And the teachers often latch onto that as well, and will also use the class reps to be able to get out some reminders and things as well. So it's not essential that the class reps come to the meeting, but if they're keen to, that's great, because again, that helps you with the larger group at the meetings. You can have that more varied conversation. But if they're not there, the idea is that the committee lets the class reps know, look, this event's coming up. We really want people to book tickets, or this event's coming up. We'd love people to come, but we need RSVP because we're catering for it. So just those sort of little reminders around P&F events, or, the P&F's looking for a couple of new members or new committee members. So getting that information out to the class reps, and then the class reps distributes it to their classroom. So it does involve the class reps obtaining all the email addresses from the class, and we can help you with template forms to send those out to families, which is an optional thing. It's definitely not compulsory for them. And then also if some schools do a class Facebook page or a WhatsApp group, so that again will come down to what your leadership team's comfortable with, because not everyone is on social media and you don't want people to be missing out. And then WhatsApp has the other option of you can see everyone's phone numbers, so maybe people won't want to opt into that. So just, depending on what works for your school and what you're allowed to do, can be, what the class representative role involves. Some schools, if they're finding it difficult to get volunteers, or it's just the same 4 office bearers that are doing all of the events throughout the year, some schools allocate different events throughout the year to those classes, sort of supported by the class reps. So it could be that year 1s every year will do the disco, year 2s every year will do Mother's Day, year 3s will do Father's Day, and then the class rep, it doesn't fall on the class rep, but they're the person that says, come on, we need a little group of people to work this out. And then, as parents move along with their different children, they get the opportunity to be involved in different events throughout the year. And when you're coming in again with your second child, you can share your knowledge from the time that you did it before. So that seems to work quite well in some of the schools that are doing it as well. The last one, Fathering Project Dads Group, it's not usually something that's funded by the P&F, but if it's something that is working at your school, or you want to introduce at your school to get dads and father figures more involved, it could be that the P&F at the beginning of the year, when they're working out their budget and their planning, might say that they can inject a little bit of money in just to help get it set up. So I know that you can actually pay for 3 levels, I think, of support through the Fathering Project to any dads that are at the school that want to set that up. So a bit of guidance and resources and sharing their knowledge and things like that. So maybe the P&F might want to give that kind of little bit of funding just to get it up and running. But then after that, usually it would just be a self-funded kind of program. So any events that the dads want to attend would be just, they buy a ticket and that's usually around because if you're charging a levy or fundraising, the money, P&F money is meant to go back into the whole school community. But if it's only kind of reaching smaller groups, sometimes that can be a bit problematic. So if you've got any questions about that, then definitely please give us a call and we can talk you through what we know and what some other schools are doing as well. Okay, so treasurer. These are all of the job descriptions, I guess, that are listed in the terms of reference and terms of reference guidelines for the treasurer. So I'll just give you a moment to have a look at those in case you haven't seen it. On the next page, I've also got a list of all of the template forms that have been provided by CSPWA that came out with the terms of reference as well. So they're in a P&F CSPWA portal where you require a login and password, so we can provide those details. They're not a secret; they're for anybody. So these, I guess some of the ones that what I wanted to say about this was that around ACM time, probably in that year after the P&F terms of reference came out, a lot of treasurers were ringing saying, do we actually need to have a treasurer? Because it just feels like now the school finance officer or bursar is doing everything for us. We can't actually look at the bank account now to see what's happening. We're just getting a report from them anyway. Like, do we even need to fulfill this role? And we definitely think that it is still a very important role because the P&F still has control of the P&F funds, and they still get to vote on what's happening with those funds and how they're used with the support of the leadership team and principal. So the treasurer is able to collate all of that information ready for the meetings as well. So yes, you'll get a report from the school finance officer, but that could be a monthly report, or depending on how often you meet, it might not completely match up to what you guys have been doing because the treasurer is the one that's looking at, what's been reimbursed, what invoices have been paid. So by having all of those forms and making sure that the correct processes are fulfilled, then it just means that the treasurer can really report back at the meetings like, we had this event on the weekend, this was how much we spent on it, we realized that we spent way too much in this area, so next year we'll make a note that we won't do that because we want to make sure that we're getting more of a profit, or we found that this supplier was way cheaper than the supplier before. So it's just a really good way to keep that information ready for the event next year, or any new office bearers that are coming in as well, just having a bit of a record of all of those transactions. So that wouldn't necessarily be happening if you were just getting reports in from the school finance officer. You guys are having that extra layer of information and support and transparency back to the school community if anybody asks as well. So these are the treasurer resources that are available on the portal. So we have these in the resources section of our website as well, and I can also provide the CSPWA portal information. I'll just go through. So we did have a question about whether these could be modified, and I think so long as they are sort of CSPWA approved ones, but if it's a small modification and it's okay with your school principal or leadership team and the school finance officer, then I think that's okay. There is a school that I went and visited where the parents were finding it quite difficult to put forward large amounts of money to buy things and then get reimbursed. And we don't sort of encourage that anyway, but they just were saying, even if we're just buying a couple of different things for a sausage sizzle event and we're, waiting a week to get reimbursed, it's just quite a lot to ask to be able to put that money forward initially. So what the school did was voted and agreed to have more petty cash available in the school office. So I think they increased it up to about $1,000. And then the reimbursement form, they modified as more like a request form. So it says, so if you're looking online or you're in a shop or whatever, and you can get a quote of what you need, you can bring that quote into the school, say, I need to borrow $500 to be able to pay this ahead of time. Make sure that the chair's happy with that, the treasurer is happy with it, they sign off on it, take it to the office, get your $500, go buy whatever you need to buy, come back with the receipt, and then acquit it that way. So rather than paying first, getting the receipt, and then getting reimbursed, you take the money ahead of time with an invoice and then come back and acquit it with a receipt. So that's something that one school's doing that is quite helpful to them. So it's still, a very similar form, and it captures the same information for auditing purposes. But definitely have to make sure that it's okay with your principal to be able to do that, and that the school finance officer has everything they need to be able to attach an invoice to that transaction. some new resources that just popped up that when we logged in one day to the new portal, the portal to have a look, were one on GST guidance for P&Fs, and a form to help with that was the tax election form. So the GST guidance just explains that the P&F can actually allocate or select 15 fundraising items in 1 year that won't attract GST when the finance officers sort of looking at those transactions within the year. So the next one, the tax election form, is actually a template that has some traditional kind of P&F fundraising events listed in it. So it's a good prompt of the different ones that you guys might do, or some new ideas. But the idea is we've spoken to CSPWA Finance about this, and they've said if you could definitely pick 15, even if you don't do those 15 events, that's totally fine. But it's much easier for the finance officer to work through the ones that you have listed, even if it's 5 or 8 or 10 or whatever, then only if you've listed 8 or 10 to try to add on another 5 down the track with the ATO. They have to get special permission. So, and another point to that as well is if you're having a sausage sizzle and you do those throughout the year, you don't have to list 4 different sausage sizzles as 4 events. You just list sausage sizzle once, and then you can have up to 15 sausage sizzles all under that one listing. So we've got a tip sheet for treasurers that we've been including for the schools that came to the in-person induction. So we'll email that along. So that just explains that part a little bit more. And there's quite a lengthy document within the portal that does explain the reasoning behind it and things like that. So some other P&F queries that we had throughout the year, we just wanted to talk to them in case other P&Fs were also finding the same difficulties. So I think the number one question that we get asked, or the frustration that's reported to us, is that P&Fs can't have credit cards anymore if they did previously before the terms of reference. So we did say to CSPWA, is there any way you can budge on that, or any flexibility? And the answer still is no, just because of the risk factor and things like as office bearers move, you have to get people taken off the bank account and then new names put on the bank account, and it just is a really long process. So some of the different suggestions that we sort of talked about with CSPWA, and some of them are kind of mentioned in the terms of reference, of if you're wanting to purchase something and it's a bulk something and you're wanting to do it online, if it's something like Coles or Woolworths or IGA or whatever you have in your community and the school has an account with them, then if you're doing it at nighttime, put everything that you can into your cart, and then if you can, come into the school the next morning and just ask the school if they're able to process the payment with their admin credit card, or however it works at your school. Or if there's an opportunity to sit in the school office after drop off or something, or after pick up, and just quickly do the order and then be able to get the school to pay for it, that just relieves you guys of being able, needing your own credit card to do that, or a P&F credit card. So that was one option. The terms of reference talks about store cards from different shops. So if that's something that is a possibility within your local area of being able to do that. Some of the other schools had suggested, are they able to purchase gift cards? So maybe even like the Visa cards that just have an amount on them, and then they sit in the office. So the P&F might agree as part of their planning to allocate $1,000 towards that, and they could be in $100 gift cards. And then as you're needing to buy something when you're at home for an event, you could sign out one of those cards with all the correct authorizations and then come back with a receipt afterwards. So just bearing in mind, if you do want to introduce something like that, just make sure you have a procedure in place so that there is a paper trail, whether again it's like a reimbursement form or some kind of request form, to be able to do that so you can track. You don't want people coming in all the time and just taking cards and then you run out really quickly, or people buying the same things. And I guess an issue with some of those cards is you don't get change, so the balances just kind of stay there. So also tracking how much of a balance is left on each of that card, that could be a bit stressful as well. But just a couple of things to possibly think about that might suit you in your context if your school leadership team is supportive of that. So that's in our Tips for Treasurers resource. Some of the other questions we got over the year is, can the P&F donate either some of their fundraising money or their P&F levy to another charity, or to something like a fundraiser, maybe a GoFundMe page and things like that? So we checked that with CSPWA, and we can't be making donations to charities because I guess the P&F and the school, being under the school as a subcommittee, has requirements through their charity registration. And then there's issues around giving money that's raised through a charity like a P&F to another charity. So yeah, basically the answer is don't do that. But if you did want to support a charity in your area or a GoFundMe event or something to do with one of your families in your school community, the P&F can facilitate that. So the P&F might want to take it on and say, yep, we're going to have a sausage sizzle on the last day of school and all proceeds raised are going to go to that particular fundraiser or that particular charity. Then that way you're giving families the option of whether they want to opt into that. It's not a compulsory thing and you're not taking any money from their levy or anything that has been raised for other purposes to that charity or that fundraiser. So you can coordinate it. It's just completely optional for parents and it's money that's separate to what you would be generating through a levy. So I hope that makes sense. But if you've got any other questions or queries about that, definitely give us a call because it will be usually a unique situation in a school that P&Fs want to discuss. Another thing that's come up this year is parents saying, oh, I'm just really time poor. I can't get in to help with the disco. I can't get in to help with graduation or the sausage sizzle or whatever it is, but I'd really love to make a cash donation in lieu of that. So where can I give the money? How can I give that to the school? So we spoke to CSPWA about that as well. And they said, so there's a couple of different options. If your school uses like a Square system or Quick Clicks or some kind of try booking or whatever it is for an event and you've possibly got one set up for disco tickets or something like that. If the school's able to support you to set up another account purely for donations and then advertise that to the school community. So school disco is coming up on this date. To buy a ticket, this is the account. If you'd like to make a donation, here's the account details. And then the donations can come in via that sort of separate Stripe or Quick Click account, try booking account, and then once it's finished, you close it off, and then those donations roll into the school bank account and then are coded as a P&F donation for that event. If you're not using any of those kind of electronic payment methods, CSPWA have said it's okay for a parent to come in and give a cash donation or an FPOS donation through the front desk at school, but ahead of doing that, it would be better if they can send an email to the principal, the finance officer, and whether you wanted it to be the P&F chair or treasurer, just saying, I'm intending on making a $100 donation towards this event, family name is, child's name is, and then go into the school, make that payment. And then when that comes through the school's bank account, they can match the email to it just so that there's a record of it as well. So there's a couple of different ways if people are asking about giving a cash donation. Another question we had was around general ledger versus summary statement, because there seems to be a bit of a difference over what kind of report the treasurers are getting. And a treasurer might go from one school getting one form and then end up at another school with a different form. So CSPWA have said that the summary statement is the most that they are required to provide to the P&F. And that's because the general ledger often will have some confidential information on it. So if people are paying their fees in stages, their name might come up on that general ledger, their family name. So the school finance officer would have to go in and delete all of that information and anything else that's coming through. So in order to provide it to the P&F and for it to be tabled at a meeting. So the summary statement can be a bit difficult sometimes. P&F's treasurers are telling us, but I think if you could just work with your finance officer about what works best for you. So if you've run an event and you've used Square and FPOS and cash, and you're kind of wanting to look at, well, which was the most popular method so that we know whether to offer all three of them again next year, you could ask the finance officer, would it be possible to code those as cash sales, Stripe sales, FPOS sales, just so that then when the report comes out, the information's there rather than just putting it all under the same event name, because then that makes it harder for you guys to be able to track that sort of stuff. So yeah, just try to work the best you can around the information you've got, I guess. So yeah, any queries about that, please give us a call. Options to collect payment. So I've already spoken about that. So if your school is already using Quick Click or Stripe or Square or something like that, it's much more economical for the school to just open a new account with that same program for the P&F. But if your school doesn't use any of those and you wanted to buy a Square subscription and a Square reader and all of that, it'll be quite expensive initially to buy that outright. So in that case, if that's not an option through the school because it's going to be too expensive, we can talk you through try booking and Humanitics for your events, and even raffle tickets and things like that. You can sell through those sort of methods as well. And that's an online thing. If there's a small fee charged as part of the event, then try booking, you can either pass that on through the ticket sales or the P&F can absorb it. So couple of different things to consider there. But what will happen is once the event's finished, you can say, right, we want to close this event now. We want to transfer the money into the school bank account. That gets transferred in and then coded towards P&F as well. So it's just another way of collecting. And that gives you the option to log in as much as you want, whenever you want, to see how sales are going, how profits are going, and things like that, which you can't do with the school bank account. And just lastly, age-specific events and wish list items. So this came up a bit throughout the year as well. So some P&Fs are a bit worried about, what if we only are funding something for just year twos, or graduation just year sixes? Is that fair, because it's meant to benefit the whole school community? So I guess things like graduation, where it's year six, if it's something that is on the budget and it's there year after year as a bit of a contribution, theoretically all families as they go through will access that when they get to the end of primary school. So everyone does get a chance to be able to benefit from that. Again, different year level events, it really just depends on your school context, and is it a one-off, is it an ongoing thing, what are the benefits of it, what's it going to bring, is it going to benefit a huge range of parents, even if it's only applicable to one age group. So it really comes down to your local context and what the group is willing to support. But definitely, again, happy if you guys drop us an email and we can talk you through maybe some pros or cons or things to think about if it's going to discussion at a meeting. Wish list items. So again, some P&Fs will allocate a portion of their levy or fundraising to every year group for teachers to come up with a wish list item. So again, if your school and the P&F and everyone is in agreement that they're happy to do that, there's no problem with that. If it's just a request here and there, then what we recommend is that the teacher don't go directly to the P&F, but go to the principal first, just to kind of say, this is something I'd love to purchase for my classroom. What do you think? Because there may be money within the budget or within the year level that can be allocated to that. And I guess once they've met with the principal, if it's something that is outside the budget, but the principal thinks definitely worth exploring, they might ask the teacher to do up a little paragraph or something, or come to the meeting to present to you guys, and then you guys can decide as a group if it's something you want to fund. So flexibility around that as well. Okay, so the budget. So P&F Treasurer, one of the major roles is preparing a budget for the year, and that's kind of based on the P&F planning that you do as well. So I will talk about planning in the next stage, but the idea would be to get together, work as a group with the leadership team and advisory council on a bit of a plan for the school for the year, and then the P&F looks at what role they're going to have in that plan. Then that becomes their plan, and then from there is a budget developed. So hopefully you'll know from previous years and from previous treasurer reports sort of what the events that you're looking at might cost, what kind of income you're hoping to generate, and you can just sort of populate it with numbers based on that. So to the left here is the example that CSPWA gives on the budget template that they have within their portal. So just some ideas of sort of popular items that schools might use throughout the year, what kind of income you're expecting to get from those, what kind of expenses are associated with it. The terms of reference state that they would prefer P&Fs to spend most of the money that they make in that year, so giving it back to the school community as it's generated, unless you're budgeting for a capital project or something that's quite large within the school, where it may take a couple of years to get to your target. So you might be carrying across 20,000, and the next year maybe 40,000. So you can just make a note of that down the very end of the budget, $40,000 carried across for this project, and that's fine. So the one on the right is just us sort of populating some dummy figures just to have a look at how that might work. So what your income is, what your expenditure is. So obviously expenditure is more here, but then your starting balance at the top was, $10,000 to start with as well. So I guess I'll move on to the planning meeting. So this is included in the terms of reference, and it's also something we were really big advocates for before the terms of reference came out, because it's just a really good way to ensure that everyone's on the same page. There's going to be no surprises throughout the year about projects and things that are coming up. So the idea is that the members of the P&F committee, the advisory council, and the leadership team get together either at the beginning of the year, or if you're wanting to do it at the end of the year, once your new office bearers have been elected and you're looking at, the school budget and things like that, it's fine to do it then as well. But sitting down and just having a look at like the committee's goals, the school's goals, the advisory council's goals, and it doesn't always need to be around money. It could just be about building the community at the school, Maybe there's been a change in staff, and so parents are feeling a little bit uneasy. So how can we get people back into the school community to meet the teachers and, just build that relationship again? Or, maybe you've had a heap of new families come in and just wanting to welcome them. So lots of different reasons to do community, but obviously making people feel welcomed and really strengthening the school community. So once you've come up with a bit of a plan and the P&F has decided, okay, we're happy to support these few things, or, all of them, that then gets tabled at the first P&F meeting for the year, so that the wider group understands what the plan is for the P&F and is happy with all of those events as well. once you've done that and you've worked out a budget for the events and sort of what money you're expecting to come in and out, you can approve that budget at the meeting as well. And so you might say, for the school disco, we're going to allocate $1,000 for that. For a welcome back to school sundowner, we'll allocate $2,000. For Mother's Day and Father's Day, we'll do $500 each. So you can approve those amounts at that first meeting. And then that means that as you're going along and planning throughout the year, you don't have to come into a meeting with every single invoice and say, oh, can I have approval for this to be reimbursed? Or can I approve this invoice that came in for this amount? Because you've already voted on that. So the only way you would need to bring it back up again is if those quotes change, or if the project that you're working on is changed, either because the P&Fs changed it or the schools changed it. You can just come back and say, look, we allocated this much. We've now got a quote. It's gone up for this reason. We need to approve another $1,000. Is everyone okay with that? Or, we're not going to go ahead with relaying the basketball courts, but we'd really love to extend the playground. So just, moving the project, maybe allocating the same amount or more or less. So, again, if you need support about that during your year, during the meetings, definitely give us a call. That's no problem. I think through doing these face-to-face induction sessions, it was really interesting to hear quite a lot of P&Fs were going, oh, so we don't have to just fundraise all the time. We can actually do events that, maybe make us have a little bit of a loss or don't make any money, and giving back to the community. So we're very much, yes. So especially if you're charging a levy, the idea of a levy is that that's the parent contribution in lieu of them needing to do fundraising. Or so if they're handing out $50 as part of their fees, then we can't be expecting them to pay, $10 here, $20 here, $30 here, $2 here, all throughout the year as well. And that's where parents seem to get a little bit upset. So once if you've got a levy, you know how much is going to be coming in generally year after year, then you can assign that money to your activities. But they all don't need to generate a profit or break even. They can be things that run at a loss, but they purely bring the community together. So again, disco, I just keep using as an example, but at my school, we would never charge the kids for the disco. So they would come in, have the disco for free. We would give them a free hot dog at the end of the session. And that was almost a bit of a strategy to get them out of the session and get the next lot in. So they would come out, get a free hot dog. And that was, so we would always run that as a loss, sort of about $2,500. In recent years, our local member has come to us saying, we really want to support all the schools in the area to help you with fundraising and things like that. So we're willing to offer you a $350 voucher that can help you with that. So we would often contact them and say, we need $400 to provide everyone with a sausage sizzle at the disco. Is there any way you can help? And they would help with that kind of thing. So that meant, again, we're not making as much of a loss because we're relying on some donations. And in previous years, because our school does 3 different sessions, there might be parents that come to drop off their youngest, but they have to wait there, another hour and a half because they've got another 2 kids at different sessions. So we opened up our canteen and just sold like lolly bags and popcorn and juices and water and things like that, just so that the kids could have something to eat if it, meant that they were waiting for their hot dog for an hour and a half or something. And that was a way of just offsetting some of the costs as well. But although the intention was never to make it into a fundraiser, it's just some little things that you can do to maybe, if you're worried about how much of a loss those events might or if your fundraising that you've done hasn't generated as much as you thought. So other things as well, if you're running like a big quiz night or something like that, like the schools maybe identified, we've got a big project, we'd love your help. So you're running a fundraiser specifically for the purpose of raising for that event and you've advertised it that way, you can always go out to the local community and ask for donations for things like auction items or hampers. They can be experiences, so like a voucher to go and experience something in the community. We've got Optus Stadium quite close to us in Perth, so sometimes they will donate a tour, which can cost sort of up to $200 or $300. So we're lucky we have a contact there. Bunnings Warehouse is always great. We can give you $50 vouchers, and then we can actually use those maybe to purchase things that might go into a hamper. Same with local department stores, Big W, Kmart, they sometimes do a $50 voucher, which you might be able to buy some chocolates to go into hampers as well. If you put it out to your school community and they've got their own business, they might be happy to donate something because that's letting the people within the school know that they have that business and they might want to take up some services from them. In exchange for getting donations, you could let people know that you'll put their business logos in the newsletter or acknowledge them in the newsletter, or at the event you might have posters around the place of business names, or you might just do a little speech halfway through it, an intermission, just acknowledging all your sponsors. So it's a great way to keep costs down when you're planning a big event, if you can rely on donations, and then that way you've got your ticket sales and your alcohol sales if you're doing that, but and your hall hire sales, all those sort of costs. Just maximizing your profit. So again, we can talk to you about those kinds of things if you're looking at a big event like that. We've also got run sheets on things like how to organize a disco, how to organize a sundowner, how to organize a movie night, how to organize a major fundraiser. Just some things you need to consider, I guess. And different tips to try to maximize the success. So if you're wanting to get in touch with us about those sorts of things, they're not on our website because they're kind of a live document that we change as CSPWA policies and things around change. So definitely get in contact with us and we can provide you with that kind of information. Okay, so updates to the P&F terms of reference document. So it still hasn't been released yet, but it's they gathered all the feedback that they got from P&Fs. So we went and met with them and put forward some of the suggestions that we had. And then so it's at the point now of just being updated. Then it will come out to principals to provide to their P&F. So most of it was just kind of, I guess, language. So not too much of an impact on the P&F. So things like 7.3, members must comply now. It used to say the school's code of conduct. Now it says... I've jumped ahead a bit. So CSPWA holds an appropriate insurance policy to cover the P&F. So it used to be church insurance, but they no longer exist. So it's just making sure that the school will have insurance to be able to cover P&F members. We've also done a bit of a fact sheet on that. So if you're holding an event on site, how the insurance covers you. If you're holding an event off site, but the venue, even Bunnings Sausage Sizzles, will ask you for a copy of your school's public liability insurance. So again, if your principal is happy to provide that, just looking at ways that you can try to assess risk and stuff so that, if you're out at an event selling alcohol and something happens and someone wants to make a claim, the insurance companies will try everything they can to not pay out a claim. And especially if alcohol's involved, it makes it a bit messy. So just some things to be aware of with that as well. If the one of the changes was that if you can't attend a meeting, you used to only be required to tell the chair, but now you could tell the secretary as well. So that just makes it a bit easier with people's availability as well. 5.14, members can still ask for exceptions, I guess, to be made for them. So there's some rules around conflict of interest and staff members being on the P&F or spouses of staff members being on the P&F and things like that. So you are the principal is able to write to the executive director to ask if special considerations can be put in place because of your particular school context. So that hasn't changed. It just the process of going through your principal first is what's been updated rather than P&F having to go straight to the executive director. The police clearance one we got asked about a little bit, and we found out through the inquiries that there was quite a few different ways you could get a police clearance. So some were just general ones through the post office, others were from Department of Communities, and then there was a volunteer versus an employee one. So the volunteer one was significantly cheaper. Then we also heard from members who had come from public schools and were on P&Cs, and that there was a Department of Education one that was even cheaper again. So we've asked CSPWA about that, and they have said that we can use the same one as the Department of Education, which is around $10. So if members are able to apply for that and they pay the $10, they can get a reimbursement from the school or from the P&F, whoever decides that they're wanting to fund that. The next question was, once we get that as P&F committee members, how often do we have to get it? Is it once a year? So CSPWA said every 2 years, because that's kind of in line with how long you nominate to a position for. So 2 years as chair, you get the police clearance. Then if you want to renominate as chair for another 2 years, then you get an updated police clearance. So we've asked them to please put in the correct link to that Department of Education screening into the terms of reference. So hopefully that'll be in there when the document comes out. So you're definitely going to the right one. Okay, this was where I jumped ahead before, sorry. So a couple of changes with the language was instead of P&F complying with the school's code of conduct, it now says CSPWA. So CSPWA has the policies up the top, and then they kind of filter through to the school as well, and the school adopts some of the CSPWA policies and then can tweak them to suit their context as well. So it's just saying, in terms of your code of conduct and your child protection, just making sure that you comply with the CSPWA ones. And then just the last dot points was things that had been raised to us through P&Fs that they wanted to make or clarified through the terms of reference. So these things haven't been included in the terms of reference, but we still wanted to talk to them quickly for you guys. So we get asked a lot about publishing of P&F minutes on the school website, or sending them out to the whole school community, and is there a legal requirement to do that? And the answer is no. So quite often when you do publish the minutes, they're a summary of the meeting, and so it's not back and forth of every single thing that was said and how the conversation went and the tone of conversation. So when people read them and see the decisions, it's usually out of context, and then that can sort of raise sometimes more questions and concerns. So we just wanted to let you know there's definitely no requirement to do that. If it works well at your school, you're more than happy, welcome to do that. Some P&Fs also will just do like a one-page summary, so it could be after every meeting or just once a term. These are the projects that we're funding. This is the events that we've held. These are the events coming up that we'd love your support with, and have it in your school newsletter or on the school social media, or however you get that information out to parents. The second one was voting rights. So quite often we'll see that the person who's chair is also the advisory council rep, and the terms of reference now say that the secretary and treasurer role can be held by one person. So it can make it a little bit difficult if you are a small committee trying to reach quorum and things like that, and with voting. So the question had come up, well, if one person holds two positions, do they get two votes, or does that count as two people there for a meeting to meet quorum? And the answer is no. Basically it comes down to the amount of bodies in the room, not the positions that they hold. So that's a good way to remember it, just how many people you've got there, not if they hold multiple positions. It doesn't give them extra voting rights. Questions again about P&F committee owning and managing a P&F Microsoft Teams account. So we get questions again about, what's the best way to store all our information? Because at the moment it's in everyone's separate email addresses, and there's no joint thing that people can access. And when we want to hand over, how do we get this information? How do we store it so that other people can access it? So with the new CSPWA approved P&F email addresses, which I'll talk about next, they will be your school code, and the extension is at cspwa.edu.au. So what will happen is the school is able to set you up a P&F Microsoft Teams account. They'll still be managing it and admins of it, but they'll then be able to invite that P&F email address in to be able to upload documents and things like that. And then, of course, when you're developing the team, you can add people's private email addresses for them to be able to access that information, and then that gets reviewed year after year. So if the chair leaves, someone else comes in, the new chair gets the access to the email address, and they get to go into the Teams account. And then as people drop off and aren't in the committee anymore, their permissions will be removed and new people can get added. So you can put things like your agendas, your minutes, your flyers. You can make up as many folders as you want to hold all of that information. So we were very happy to hear that those addresses were coming. And then I guess, just fundraising ideas. So we just had that on there because we did get asked for different fundraising ideas or new ideas. So we do have on our website a fundraising tab that has some of the major ones that you'll hear about on there. We've also got a fundraising guide just for both sort of regional schools and metro schools of different things that you could think about. And if we hear of anything new, we definitely are able to share that with our communities. And I'll mention at the end, we also have a P&F Connect Facebook group. So that's welcome to any parents in Catholic schools or P&F members as well, just to get on there and post about for questions or sharing ideas, or if you've found an awesome supplier, you might want to put their details on there, or a really great organisation that was able to help with a fundraising event. That's sort of the intention of it, I guess, to support each other's and share ideas. Okay, so the P&F email addresses. So this was something we were working with CSPWA on for up to 2 years. And the idea was having a central email address that we knew when we sent P&F information that it was definitely going to the right people, and CSPWA as well, if they want to send you something like possibly the updated terms of reference guides or any new things that are coming out, or they're wanting feedback from P&Fs about an update to the terms of reference, it's going to the right people. Because quite often someone will come in as chair and say, I can't access the P&F email address, the Gmail one, because that person's now left and I don't know how to contact them. I'm going to create a new Outlook one. And then that person leaves and then they don't provide the password. And so someone comes in and goes, okay, we'll get like a generic school one. So on our database, some schools have about 5 different email addresses. So when we're sending correspondence, we don't know which one to send it to. So this one, it means it's consistent. It'll be your schoolcode.pnfchair@cspwa.edu.au. So you can If you know other school codes, you can chat to other chairs as well and get ideas from them. What needs to happen is that the school actually needs to set it up first through their AOS system. So there's instructions that were sent out to principals, but they were sent out at the very end of the summer holidays. So a lot of principals didn't even see that email. So there's instructions on how the admin at school can create that position in their AOS. And then after that's been created, there's 24 hours later, there's an automatic invitation sent to the current P&F chair asking for them to set up the email address. So the chair will get a CSPWA email address, and then once they've got that set up, they'll be able to attach themselves to the P&F email address. So the CSPWA email address will be for their own information, not for P&F staff, but the P&F email address will be completely for P&F. So you'll get your sort of OneDrive account with both of those, so the chair can be working with their CSPWA email address on documents and things, and then once they're finished, they can be uploaded in through the P&F email address. And when we were looking at the instructions, it actually shows how to set up CSPWA addresses for the other office bearers as well. So if that's something that your school wanted to do, that might be useful. The idea is that when the P&F chair steps down, whether that's after 2 years or 4 years or 6 years, they get removed from that email address and they lose their CSPWA email address. And then the new person that comes in goes through the same process. They'll get a email when their name's attached to it. They'll get an email 24 hours later, and then they'll be able to access these email addresses. So as people change, the information in the email is still the same. The email address for the school community to contact you and CSPWA to contact you and us to contact you will stay the same. So we really hope that schools take it up and use it. And yeah, we can see many benefits. So just quickly, I wanted to give an update about our online induction. So it used to sit on our website, and it was an external website. So it would take you to an external link, and you would have to actually register to do it by entering some details. Then you would get authorization. So we've had a couple of technical issues with it where people are requesting to be able to complete it and we're not getting those notifications. And then when we approve them, they're not getting the email to access it. So we've taken it and moved it into our resources section of our website. So when you go to the resources section, you'll be required to enter a password. And then when you enter that password, the very first document there that you can access is the P&F online induction. So it's just a PowerPoint presentation covering the 30 modules, 27 or something modules that were there before. So you can just look at it, work at it at your own pace as a group. It's got information like the role descriptions, some governance tips, some extra information for chairs on how to run an effective meeting, how to deal with conflict within the P&F or with the school and the P&F or parents within the school, just a couple of little tips there. It's got some CSPWA information that's relevant to P&Fs, like the child safety that is mentioned in the terms of reference. So we update that every year, but we're more than happy if you're looking through it. If you feel like there's something's missing, please let us know and we can easily introduce extra slides into that. So you'll just see when you do enter your password, which we'll email around, under the online induction, you've there got your role descriptions, help sheets and templates. And then there's a whole range of things there that you can click on and download. After that, you've got your terms of reference documents and all of those budget templates. Then under that, you've got ACM guides and little tip sheets and stuff for when it comes to ACM time. We've also got a little section on handover. So when you're looking at maybe a whole new committee coming in, what are the sorts of information you could give them to ensure that they can hit the ground running. All of the documents are PDF documents because that's the only way we can upload them to the website. But if you're wanting a Word version of things, definitely get in contact with us and we can send you the Word version and then you can tweak it to suit your school context. So there's things like volunteering flyers that you can put in your school newsletter on, the benefits of volunteering. There's also agenda templates and minute templates and things like that. So, and nominations to committee forms. So all those sorts of things that will have our logo on them. But if we send you the Word document, you can change them to put your school logo or P&F logo. Okay, my last slide. So other things that we can help you with, in case I hadn't mentioned them throughout this information session, was just that we can do school visits. So even though could be in a regional area, like we try, if funding allows us to come down to the regions throughout the year. So we've definitely got a Bunbury visit scheduled for, I think it's week 3 in term 2. So we're going to be contacting the schools in those that diocese to see if they'd like to come along to an event that we hold, or just if we could pop in and maybe see them at different times. We're also looking at Geraldton and Broome this year as well. So if it's a P&F meeting that you just wanted us to be able to come to just to provide some advice, or do like a little mini induction on the roles if you've got a brand new committee, or if there's a bit of a contentious issue and you just want us to talk to that as an independent kind of person that's not affiliated with the school or the P&F, we can do that. So that might just be a Teams meeting for 10 minutes of your meeting, or a Zoom meeting, or whatever suits you guys. Or if the P&F wanted to get together and have a team or Zoom meeting with us prior to a meeting just to talk through some things or get some information, we can do that as well. So we're in the office 3 days a week, but we have, we're flexible. So we often go to P&F meetings in the evening and Zoom in and things from home. That's no problem. So downloadable resources. So not just for P&Fs, but things that you could use within your school community. So we've got a lovely little brochure that says, "Welcome to your Catholic school community," which is, I guess, for people that maybe haven't been in Catholic education before, or parents that aren't Catholic themselves. So it talks about what to expect. So your sacraments are offered, and also things like feast days within your school community, and I guess how you can participate in formation to be able to be talking to your children outside of school about those sorts of things as well. And we've also got one called Parents as Partners, The Values We Share, which is a really nice, sort of like a code of conduct for parents, but written by parents. So it's just about working together and being positive. And those two brochures might be things that you like to download from our website to be able to give out at kindy meetings, or as new parents enter the school community, just as part of a bit of a welcome pack, if that's what you do. And as I said before, like different flyers that you might want to put in your school newsletter as well. We can give you support with agendas, and so that could be agendas and also minutes as well. Checklists for planning meetings. So what sort of things do you need to think about? Checklist for ACMs and a handover. So I sort of already mentioned those as well. We can also auspice grants for affiliated schools. So if you are affiliated with us and we see you as our members. So if there's a grant that you're looking for in the local community, local shire, or somewhere, they quite often want you to be incorporated, and P&Fs, as subcommittees of the school now, are no longer incorporated, but us as an organisation, we are. And you as our members, we can auspice a grant for you. So it just means that we sort of fill out our bank details and everything. We do a little memorandum of understanding with you, just saying that the funds that you're applying for will be used in the correct way that you've stated. And then, we get the money into our account. We then transfer it through to you guys. You use it for the grant, and then we work on the acquittal back together. So that's something that we can support you with. I've sort of already mentioned as well, like representing your voice at state and federal, and through working parties and reference groups. So we were contacted the other day from CSPWA because they're looking at a suite of resources on respectful relationships. So they said, are there any parents that might like to be involved in having some input into that as well? So we sort of put it out through to our council first, but we can definitely advertise opportunities like that out to all of our schools, and hopefully through those email addresses once they're up and running as well. So anyone that has a particular interest in that area or some experience, can be involved, or can provide us with feedback, and then we can provide it on their behalf. And just some networking opportunities as well. So we try to have a conference every 2 years where we get funding from Lottery West to bring regional and remote families to the conference. So it pays for all of their travel and also their accommodation to stay in the city. We do understand that it's a big commitment for families to come for 2 whole days, sort of 3 as well because of your travel time. So we are looking at, are there other ways that we could also still involve our regional families and get them to network with other metro families as well. So we're looking at webinars. So having live webinars where either we speak on a topic or we get an expert in, and we can have anyone within WA tune into those and have discussions and things, and also record them and provide them out later as well. We've got the Awards of Excellence every year, which is an opportunity for you to nominate someone in your Catholic school community that's doing awesome work. So it could be a parent group, principal, the parish, or anyone else really in the school community that doesn't fit within those categories through our Agnes Weymouth Award. So we will be calling for nominations I think, early term 2, and we'll give everyone the full term to be able to put those nominations together and submit them to us, and then we'll have an event early in term 3. So although most regional families wouldn't be able to make it to the event, we definitely encourage nominations, because they'll be read out on the night, and obviously if that your nominee is a winner, we'll make sure that we get the certificate and everything out to you as well. And then every second year when we have a conference, the awards is a part of that conference as well, so regional families can definitely attend for that. I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any feedback about this session, too long, too short, didn't cover certain things, wish we'd focus more on something else, please let us know, because we want it. It's for you guys, and we want to make sure that we're ticking all the boxes of the information that you need or you're wanting. If you've got any other questions that you've thought of as we were going through, definitely drop us a line on my support email. Feel free to send this to people within the school community. We'll also upload it onto our website in the induction section as well, so anyone really can jump on and have a look as well. So thank you very much for your 1 hour of your time. And please reach out if you've got any questions, because we'll be more than willing to help. Okay, thank you. See ya.